So, but I don't know. I just rather not mess with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Am I still frozen or
You're still frozen. Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. It's not an unflattering frozen though.
Okay.
Don't worry. You're actually just like, yeah.
Okay.
So don't worry.
Okay. Well, if you're
I'm
good, we can
I'm
go
sure
ahead.
it'll unfreeze in a minute.
Sounds
Okay.
good. All right.
Okay.
Okay, so my guest today, I'm super excited to talk to her, is my friend Esme. And hi. How are you today?
Hi. How are you, Tamara?
Doing good.
Good.
So thanks so much for coming on. So in the intro, I kind of vamped you up and talked about a little bit how we met, and what we're going to be talking today.
Okay.
So topic of conversation today is what to do when you marry the wrong career. So I felt like that was an
Yeah.
appropriate one, if that's okay.
It is. It is. I like that. I like that title. That's
Okay.
great.
So, so you and I met when very first and very briefly, because I think we talked about this later and it was super short, but when I was in undergrad, you worked at the same school that I was going to. And it was
Yes.
a super brief like encounter, I think. And then let's see, so I finished school and then I moved back to Houston. And when I moved back to Austin, actually started working at a small private school and there you were.
Mhm.
And so,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
but you, and then again, we briefly worked together. I think we only worked together for the summer, maybe. And then
We did. Yeah, I think for just a couple months.
and then I went to another school. So, but kind of if you want to just, talk about a little bit what you did, in that time, like, I guess your career path, I guess. Like, how did you start in, because we met when you were doing advancement and admissions work. And
Right.
so kind of how you got started in that and then your career choices before that and just a little bit of background there.
Yeah, yeah. So no, I was really excited when you kind of joined the team at that small school. And I think we just kind of became really fast friends from there, which,
Mm-hmm.
was really good. And then we just kind of stayed connected after. So that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But so I started off, I guess really like my career started off in admissions, but for a university.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those things where I never said, "Oh, I want to be an admissions counselor,"
Okay.
when I grow up. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was never part of my sort of professional plan. I
Mm-hmm.
actually always wanted to be a counselor since,
Okay.
since I was little. And I sometimes didn't really know what that meant,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew I wanted to uh, listen to people and help them.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyways, when I went to college, I did a major in psychology because I felt like that was kind of the track
Okay.
to get me to be a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I graduated, I come from a really traditional Hispanic family, and so they
Mm-hmm.
expected me to either go back home
Mm-hmm.
or keep going to school. So it was one
Okay.
of those like, okay, you're done with school,
Mm-hmm.
come back or keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to keep going,
Mm-hmm.
so that I could just stay in Austin
Sure.
longer. And I knew that to be a counselor, I had to what's it called, get a master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I decided to stay, and I started working for this university, the
Mm-hmm.
one that we had attended. And so um, I loved work in admissions, and I really enjoyed being kind of in that role.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so at the same time, I was doing my master's, right? So in this admissions job, they said at some point, "Are you interested in doing international admission?" And
Okay.
what that meant at that point was just kind of process international student applications. So I was like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, that sounds super interesting to me. I
Mhm.
learned about different educational systems, and I just kind of started falling in love with international admissions
Okay.
and um, and the idea of of students coming from different parts of the world and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So so I just kind of um, went down that track while I was
Mhm.
doing my master's, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And towards the end of my master's degree, they had asked me if I wanted to travel internationally, and I
Oh
was
wow.
like,
Of course.
yes, yes, I would love to. And
Mhm.
so I started traveling internationally
Mhm.
and absolutely loved my job.
Mhm.
And it was, I felt challenged, I felt happy. I
Mhm.
was at that point, I think I just got married, but I didn't have kids. So it was just
Mhm.
like this awesome, like little space in my life that was
Mhm.
like amazing, right?
Sure.
And so I'm getting at this whole time, I'm still working on my master's in
Mhm.
counseling, and I'm getting towards the end of it. And the last part of the master's, you have to do like this internship.
Mhm.
And um, so I had to kind of make a choice because I was going to have to add an internship to my current job.
Oh wow.
So I remember I talked to my supervisor and
Mhm.
I said, hey, you know what? I don't think I'm going to finish my master's because
Mhm.
I love what I'm doing right now.
Sure.
And she said, it just I'm gonna give you some advice. Just finish it. You're
Mhm.
really close. Like
Mhm.
just finish it because if you
Mhm.
wait a year, things change and you can never
Sure.
come back and it'll
Mhm.
never be the same.
Mhm.
So I thought, oh, that's not what I wanted to hear, but
Yeah.
okay, I'll finish it. So it
Sure.
was really hard because I was working, I was traveling in
Mhm.
this job, and I was having to do counseling in the evenings and on the weekends. So it just kind
Mhm.
of became this really kind of crazy 4 or 5 months for me. But
Yeah.
I finished it and I was like, you
Mhm.
know what? Whatever. It's
Mhm.
done. It's kind of like I have a master's. I can just
Mhm.
kind of put that at the end of my name and be done with
Sure.
it. And I kept doing the admissions
Mhm.
job, traveling internationally, just kind of
Mhm.
really loving it. Um, and then, so I always feel like there's these big events that lead
Mhm.
me to a job change,
Sure.
right?
Uh-huh.
Um, I've never like really kind of planned it out and said, okay, I'm going to do
Mhm.
this for this long. Like there's always
Mhm.
something that happens that changes the trajectory
Sure.
pretty like swiftly. And
Mhm.
so um I was traveling and I was at this in this little island called Trinidad and
Mhm.
Tobago. I don't know if you
Mhm.
even know where
Yeah.
that is.
Uh-huh.
Tiny little island off of Venezuela.
Mhm.
Anyways, yes, I was there. And at that point, I had my son, and he was
Mhm.
8 months old, and I had
Oh
left him. And
wow.
these trips were like 3, 4 weeks long.
Oh wow.
So I was really struggling with like being a
Sure.
new mom. I just
Mhm.
left my kid,
Mhm.
obviously with my husband, but
Mhm.
still, I mean, I just that guilt,
That's
right?
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I was really kind of struggling with that. So I'm in Trinidad, and it's towards the end of this like 3, 4 week long trip, and there's an earthquake
Oh gosh.
in the hotel. So I was just like traumatized,
Oh my
right,
gosh.
from this
Yeah.
experience. And so
Uh-huh.
the first thing I did was change my flight to go home and
Mhm.
the next flight out.
Mhm.
And the second thing I did was call my supervisor and say, I'm
Mhm.
coming home and
Mhm.
I'm going to start looking for a new job.
Oh
And so
gosh.
she was like, okay, well, you do what you need to do.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
She was like super supportive about it.
Mhm.
And so so yeah, so that was kind of like where I was just like, okay, I really need to switch jobs. I don't know what
Mhm.
I'm gonna do, but I know that traveling needs to stop.
Sure.
um so anyways, I just kind of stopped, and then I did a couple other jobs at the university, but really
Mhm.
kind of struggling, kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, I like them and I'm
Mhm.
happy,
Sure.
but it wasn't like fulfilling.
Yeah. It didn't fit
So
anymore. Like it fit in
yeah.
that time frame where it was just you and your
Yes,
husband living your best no kid life.
exactly, Exactly. Yes, it fit at that time. And
Mm-hmm.
then, yeah, I just was trying to really figure out. And every once in a while, I'd kind of go back to be like, well, I've always wanted to be a counselor. I can go.
Mm-hmm.
But, kind of looking back at it, I think what always stopped me was that I had to take this like state exam to
Mm-hmm.
get my license to
Sure.
be a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And I was mortified. I was
Oh,
so
yeah.
scared to take this test. And I
Yeah.
think more than anything, I was just so scared to fail it, because I was
Mm-hmm.
like, man, I've worked so hard for this master's. Can't that just
Yeah.
be enough? Like,
Right. Yeah. It's
no.
difficult. And
Yeah. Yeah.
standardized tests and myself do not get along like at all.
No.
So I completely understand the like
No.
paralyzing fear in not
It
being
really
able
was.
to do this test. Totally get it.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it was. So then I'd
Mhm.
always be like, I want to, but I don't want to do this test. So I'm just
Mhm.
going to go ahead and move on, right? Like
Mhm.
I'll find
Yeah.
another job. I'll do something
Mhm.
different.
Yeah.
So then, by that point, I had two kids, and they were at this small Catholic school,
Mhm.
and there was a position that opened up in admissions as an admissions and development director,
Mhm.
and um, and I had, after doing admissions for university, I thought, I loved it, but
Mhm.
I'm never going back to that. Like
Yeah.
that's just something I'm never gonna do, right?
Mhm.
Well, never say never because
Mhm.
I went back to admissions, and I applied for this job at this
Mhm.
small elementary school. And before I knew it, it had been 7 years that I had been there,
Mhm.
and I was just like, oh my gosh, okay. So
Yeah.
and it again, like it was one of those jobs that fit my life at that time.
Mhm.
Because then what
Mhm.
happened was that I was with my kids all the
Mhm.
time, and my professional life and my home life kind of aligned, right?
Mhm.
Like, so I could be with my kids, I could go to the talent show, I could
Yeah.
be involved,
Uh-huh.
but then still also be doing something that was like professionally challenging and great.
Mhm.
So then again, I just kind of started thinking like, oh, I've been doing this for 7 years, and
Mhm.
I really think I need to do something different. Like I really kind
Mhm.
of wanted to.
Yeah.
Um, so you've been at a small Catholic school before, and you
Mhm.
kind of, even though you have a title, like you just do everything,
Yep.
right? Like there is no like the title is just like a
It's just there. Kid needs a
yes,
band-aid, cool. Teacher needs a
right.
potty break, there I
I
go.
mean,
Like
yes,
always.
exactly, exactly. So yeah, so I was, kind of that was kind of my role.
Mhm. Mhm.
My admissions and development was almost like secondary because I was
Sure.
just like, I got to do what needs to get done to get us
Mhm.
through the school day.
Yep.
So I noticed that I tended to really seek out
Mhm.
and look for opportunities within my job that I would be like with kids, right?
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
really started to notice that about myself. I was like, oh, I'm really avoiding my real job now. I'm looking for teachers that need a break. I'm looking
Yeah.
for the kids that are misbehaving,
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
I think that was one of the things that I first kind of stopped and was like, huh, that
Mhm.
means it's time to do something else because I'm
Yeah.
really looking for it within my own job. I'm looking
Mhm.
for something different.
Yeah. Well, and even then I can remember like I said, we weren't there that long together, just a
Uh-huh.
couple of months. But
Yeah.
even in that time when I was there, I remember you saying, you know, counseling I really am interested in learning more about the school counselor program. What does the school
Yes.
need for me to be an official counselor? And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then I
Uh-huh.
remember you saying, "Oh, well, I do have my master's in this." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So it was always interesting to me how you kind of fell into these jobs because I feel like that's what it was. And I
Yes.
feel like that's what oftentimes happens like when you go through life is that
Yes.
sometimes things just fall when you need them and they're good for you at that point and before you know it,
Yes.
like you said, it was 7 years and even I can't believe you were there for 7 years because just after us talking about it I was like, oh my
Right.
gosh, you were there for 7 years. But
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, so
Yeah.
so then at that time, well, like you said, so you were with your kids and they were younger, but then your kids are getting older, right? So a little bit
Mhm.
more
Mhm.
independent, I would
Yes.
assume.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so you
They,
start
they
thinking
they stopped saying hi to me in the hallway. You know, it was like at first they were so excited that their mom
yeah,
worked there, and then I was like,
yeah.
"Oh gosh, please don't say hi. Please don't say
Oh,
hi."
I know. Like I remember when your son was still smaller when I
Uh-huh.
worked there. And I
Uh-huh.
remember in the hallway, I think he's his class or he whoever it was with, he passed you and he like blew you a kiss and you
Yes.
like caught it and you waved back at him and I was like, that was so sweet.
It was. Oh, he would die if he heard that
Yeah.
story
It,
right
but
now. He's in high
it was
school now.
so sweet. And I remember you saying he's not always going to do that. So
Right.
I need to
Right.
just, while he blows me kisses, I just
Right.
need to accept him and
Yeah.
blow him back to him. But it was
Yes.
so
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah. He was. He's a sweet kid, but he's definitely, yeah. It definitely got to where when they started middle school, it's like
Yeah.
avoiding.
Drop me
Please
off on the
don't, no
carpool
eye
line.
contact.
Oh
So
man.
I really, I mean, I was super grateful
Oh
to for that
sure.
job because, like I
Mhm.
said, like I think during that time in my life, it just that's what I needed.
Mhm.
And it was challenging, you know,
Mhm.
development work. Goodness,
Mhm.
it's challenging,
Mhm.
and it's definitely a calling, and you have to believe in the mission in order to be able
Mhm.
to do it. So yeah, it was a lot of work and it was a big challenge. But
Mhm.
so then what happened so I started kind of noticing, right, that I'm
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
leaning towards like if there was a kid that was misbehaving, they would send them to my office and I would talk
Mhm.
to them and
Sure.
I just noticed like, ooh, I this is what I like doing. And so what ended up happening was another kind of major event is that we actually had a mom at the school
Mhm.
pass away.
Oh no.
And yeah, it was really sad. She had 5 kids at the school. And it was kind of, I mean, she was in the hospital for a little bit,
Mhm.
but maybe, you know, for like a week. And 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 it impacted our entire school just because the
Mhm.
kids were kind of all across, right?
Yeah.
And during that time, so I was Spanish speaker, so
Mhm.
I was really in touch with the dad and
Mhm.
with the kids. The kids, 2 of them were with my kids.
Yeah.
So it was really just kind of this really like difficult time at the school.
Mhm.
So I had a lot of kids
Good.
at that time in my
Mhm.
office and parents that I was talking to, and we were talking
Mhm.
about the grief and all that.
Mhm.
And I realized, like, okay, this
Mhm.
is it. Like,
Yeah.
this is what I want to do. And I need to just stop being
Mhm.
scared about this dumb test. And
Yeah.
I need to just do it because this is
Mhm.
what I really want to do.
Yeah.
And like you said, my kids were now at an age where they're really independent and sort
Mhm.
of beyond independent, more like, we don't want you here. Let's be honest.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, so I just thought, you know, they're kind of becoming their own people, and
Mhm.
I don't need this excuse of like, oh, I'm gonna be a good mom and
Mhm.
stay in their lives. So
Yeah.
I just, yeah, so that's kind of what happened, and that was I think the big event that really kind of made me see
Yeah.
I need to be a therapist, and I need to figure out how I'm gonna do this.
Kind
So
of launched you in that mind frame of
yes.
this is where I need to be. Like I can't, keep pushing off and thinking it's like an unattainable when it's, I think whenever it's, how people say like, oh, if you love what you do, you're never going to work a day.
Yes.
That's just kind of like you're
Mm.
enjoying every day and it's not burdensome and there's not like extra stresses and worries. And so,
Yeah.
um, I mean, unfortunate the situation, I guess that kind of
Right.
catapulted you into that
Right.
mind frame. But like you said, things and situations happen for reasons, and like what pushed you into that direction.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that test is like I guess there's a lot of studying. Did you have to take other courses for that, or?
So by the time I decided to finally look into this,
Mm-hmm.
I had graduated with my master's. It had been like 13, 14 years, right?
Uh-huh.
And so the test was now a national test. So not
Okay.
only like if I had just taken it, 8 years before.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
would have been a state test and a little bit simpler to study for,
Okay.
but at this point now it's become a national test.
Got it.
Um, and it's a standardized test, and they
Mhm.
give you 3 chances, so you can take
Okay.
it 3 times.
Okay.
And if you don't pass it by the third time,
Mhm.
you have to go back and take some graduate level
Got
coursework.
it.
And they
Okay.
kind of tell you what areas you're low on, and so
Uh-huh.
then you focus in those areas in graduate level work.
Okay.
So what I ended up doing is once I did all the research about what I had to do,
Mhm.
is I just thought, I had to really be like, what am I the most afraid of? Like,
Mhm.
why am I so scared of this test? And really it was failing it, obviously, but I think it was
Sure.
really my fear of never being a counselor. Like, I had
Mhm.
told myself for a long time, and
Mhm.
then I managed to kind of put it off doing other
Mhm.
things, but then I just had this fear, like, I'm never going to be a counselor.
Mm.
um so but then I thought, well, I'll do everything I can.
Mhm.
I'll just keep going. So I'll take it once. If I fail it, I take it again. I take it again. And if I fail it the third time, I'll go back to school. I mean,
Mhm.
that's just what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
So I was kind of determined at that point, like,
Mhm.
this is what I'm doing.
So it was
So
more of the fear of never being a counselor is what
yes,
kind of catapulted you into that
yes,
too.
yes,
So,
it was. And I think it was
okay.
what stopped me, because I kept thinking, like, gosh, if I fail this, and at some point somebody's gonna be like, you can't be a counselor. And especially now, like, that I really wanted it, that I was
Mhm.
like, I really
Mhm.
want to do
Yeah.
this. So
So how long
anyway.
did it take you from the time whenever you started, I guess, researched and you studied and did all of that stuff to the time when you actually took it? Like
Mhm.
what, I guess, how long did it take you to do all of that to where you became like an actual like licensed
Right.
person?
Yes. So it took me a whole year,
Okay.
because once this parent passed away and it really
Mhm.
impacted our school community,
Mhm.
I started looking at what I needed to do. And then I took the test on April 2nd. So it was, well, maybe more like a year and a half,
Mhm.
um, that it took me to actually go sit and take the test.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so then, and I happened to pass it like the first
On the
time.
first time?
Yes.
Oh, yay.
And I was so shocked. I mean, I really
Mhm.
went in there thinking, like, okay, this time I'm gonna take it just to see, right?
Mhm.
Like, I'm just
Mhm.
gonna see what it's like, and then I'll come back the second time, and then I'll really try.
Mhm.
um, but yeah, no, I did. I ended up passing it, but I studied a lot just because,
Mhm.
I don't know, I'm just older and I don't retain information as
Sure.
well. It's not as easy.
I definitely would be really intimidated about like only 3 times and then having the thought of going back to school. But that's awesome that you did it on the first time.
Yes,
So you
yeah.
didn't have to go through all that stuff. So
Yes,
that's
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I would just, I mean, I happened to, a lot of it was just really luck, I think, because but I had committed a lot of time, and
mhm.
I'm really lucky in that I had that support from my family.
Mhm.
My husband, I mean, was just super supportive about, like, yeah, take
Mhm.
time to study. I would go to Starbucks twice a week just to, like,
Mhm.
soak up the information. And
Yeah. So that was
so
gonna be
yeah.
my question was how did people react, I guess, when you had to like once you been in this career for 14 years, when
Mhm.
you decide I'm going to do something different and kind of pivot, what was like the reaction, friends, family, that kind of thing once you decided?
Yeah. I think for the most part, people were super supportive,
Mhm.
and they were really like, yeah, this sounds like it's, um, like, they knew it was something I always wanted to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
But, I just had never, like, finished it, I guess. I
Mhm.
just had never, um, so yeah, no, people were really supportive. And even in my job at the school,
Mhm.
with my supervisor, who I still have a really good relationship with.
Mhm.
we've become friends, really.
Mhm.
Um, he was like, "Oh yeah, it'll suck for you not be here," but it was
Yeah.
supportive,
Sure.
especially like I have to study or I have to take
Mhm.
the day off to go take this test. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, he was just like, "Yeah, I can see that that's where you're headed," and that's
Mhm.
always like the sign of a good supervisor, somebody who knows like
Definitely.
you need to move on and it's time and
Mhm.
I support you and what can I do. So
Definitely. That's awesome. Because I think
yeah,
it's more of the I think when people really like love and care about you, that they
yeah,
want you to be successful.
yes,
And whatever that looks like,
yes,
whatever it's like, if it's staying with them in this job, in this career, or maybe it's not in this position. So how do we figure out a place for you to be challenged and want to, continue to learn here?
right,
Or is it somewhere else? And I think that that's like, I mean, that's awesome. I think that, your
yeah,
supervisor was just really great about that. And your
yeah,
family too being so supportive. But I guess
yes,
too, if they knew that that's what you always wanted to do, it's not like
yes,
shocking.
right,
Where did
yeah,
this come from? This came out of the blue. Like it's not a
yes.
normal.
Right. No, it wasn't. And I think,
Mhm.
I guess my kids didn't really, because they didn't know me before,
Mhm.
but once I started talking about it and like,
Mhm.
oh, I really want to do this, and I think also just being vulnerable with them and just
Mhm.
being like, I'm so scared of this test, and it has
Mhm.
kept me from doing what I want for years.
Mhm.
And them just like realizing that,
Mhm.
so that we're all scared of tests and
Mhm.
just think, but we can do hard things.
Mhm.
We can do hard things.
Yeah.
So
One of the
yeah, so I felt like there was a lot, like I always felt supported. I mean, I think my mom maybe might have been the one that was a little bit more worried, because so my
Mhm.
mom has always worked in schools, and so
Mhm.
she was just elated when I was working at the school.
Sure.
She's like,
Uh-huh.
that's the perfect job for a mom, to work at a
Uh-huh.
school.
Sure.
Um, and so she was a little bit nervous about like, are you sure you want to leave? Are
Mhm.
you sure you want to do this? Like, do you
Yeah.
have it really good? And I think a lot of times, when I have stayed at jobs, like at the university, I was there for
Mhm.
13 years.
Mhm.
Um, and there was always sort of this fear of like, that's true, I have it really good.
Mhm.
What if I leave and it
Mhm.
sucks where I
Yeah.
think I'm going?
Mhm.
And I think that that stops us a lot of times from
Definitely. I would
just,
definitely say that's a big stopping factor for why people
yeah,
might stay in jobs or situations that maybe are not where their passions lie or where
right,
they get the most value, but
right.
well, this part of my life right now is really important and it's accommodating to that. So I
Yeah.
should just stick it out until
Yes.
I
Yes.
can't anymore, I guess.
Right.
Mhm,
Right. Yeah. Or until, something happens. There was this, I saved it. Hold on. Because
mhm,
there was this like little saying that I think kind of really, um, it has helped me sometimes. Oh, now I can't get to it.
mhm.
Um, but that kind of helped me, get to, okay, never mind. I don't know. I
Well, you
forgot
want to
how to
hear
work. I forgot
it's
how to work my phone
it's
because
all
we're,
good. It's so one interesting story I have from that little school, and you said
uh-huh,
earlier that you think it was a lot of luck, and I would beg to differ because
uh-huh,
you're not a person I think that leaves things to luck. And it's funny because when I wasn't at the school for maybe a couple months, but in that
mhm,
small time frame
uh-huh,
met a lot of families and parents and
yeah,
people that went to the school. And I remember one of the first encounters, and I don't even know who this parent was. I have no idea. But I was
uh-huh,
walking around with our supervisor, and he
mhm,
was introducing me and was like, "Oh, this is, Tamara. She's going to be working in the front office and, blah, blah, blah." And at this time, or no, I lie. I hadn't taken the job yet. I don't think
oh,
I had
uh-huh,
taken it. I was just walking around to like look at the school and stuff. And
mhm,
one of the parents saw us walking in again. We just introduced, and she looked at me and she said, "I'm not going to wish you luck because my dad says that people who are lucky don't prepare. And
Uh-huh.
whenever you, and she's like, and you don't look like a person who doesn't prepare. So I'm going to
Mm.
wish you much success, because whether you
Aw.
stay here or whether you take another job, you're going to be successful. And
Mhm.
honestly, I don't even know who this parent was, but that
Uh-huh.
little tidbit has stuck with me this ever
Uh-huh.
since then, because, and so to your credit, I don't think it was luck. I really
Uh-huh.
know that you like studied your butt off and did everything you need to do to prepare to take this test. And
Mhm.
so success. That's what I'm like.
That's
It's just one thing, like the fruits of your labor um
right. Yeah.
coming to
Yeah.
fruition. So,
Oh, well, thank you. That's a
yeah.
really sweet thing to say. But yeah, that's a really sweet thing for a parent to tell you because it is true. I mean, it's
Mhm.
like leave luck to those who need it, right? Who
Mhm.
don't
Mhm.
like prepare. But
Yep. But
yeah, that is sweet. But oh, I thought I had it and I oh it says yeah, so obviously this says it's sort of God saying this, but it can
sure.
be anybody, I guess, that
Uh-huh.
you believe it is. But it says I had to make you uncomfortable, otherwise you never would have moved.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes like we wait for that because I definitely have been in situations where I'll just stay. I mean, I'll just
Mhm.
stick it out and I'll just stay until it just gets to the point where it's like, okay, you've
Mhm.
got to go. And
Mhm.
sometimes it is, like with COVID, people getting
Mhm.
laid off and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So sometimes it is just sort of this nudge of like,
Mhm.
all right, it's time for you to move on to something
Yeah.
else.
Mhm.
You've been saying you have a plan. You've been saying you want to do this or
Mhm.
you've been saying you want your life to look different, like your
Mhm.
work life balance.
Mhm.
And this is your chance. Like,
Yeah.
go do it,
Exactly. Well, and that's like why I wanted to talk to you, was because that's where I'm at right now, because
Mhm.
I am laid off. My industry is not doing well at all.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's like, and do I need to pivot? Do I need to, like,
Uh-huh.
what is my next plan of action? And so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Mhm.
But yeah, I definitely agree on the whole comfort thing,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's because I had seen a similar quote where it's like, greatness is not in your, it's not in your comfort zone.
Oh, yeah.
It's
It is.
beyond, because
Yep.
you're not going to become great or continue to excel and push forward if you're constantly doing the same things over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely agree with that.
Yes. Yeah,
um,
it is. And but sometimes yeah, like you said, when you're comfortable, it's yeah, before you know it, you know, 13 years have gone by.
yep.
Like, oh, I'm still here.
Yep.
And
So okay.
sometimes those 13 years, it's good because you're still
Mhm.
learning and you're
Yeah,
growing. But
definitely.
sometimes, yeah, you're just there. Yeah.
Yeah, needing a change sometimes. So,
Mhm.
okay, so how long ago? That was a couple years ago, right? That this change happened, I
It
guess.
was, so I left the school in September of,
Mm.
um, yeah, 28. I don't even know what year it is.
Yeah,
A year
2020.
ago,
Yeah.
September a year ago.
Okay, so we're at a year in. So what does
Yes.
it look like now? You're a fully licensed counselor.
Yeah, so
Um,
I have my license and they still consider me kind of an intern because
okay.
for the licensing requirements, I have to complete 3,000 hours
Gosh,
of
that's so
counseling.
many
I
hours.
know.
Okay.
Yes, it's a
Mhm.
lot. And
Mhm.
so I'm kind of halfway through those
Okay.
3,000 hours.
Okay.
But I am working as a therapist. So
Okay.
that's kind of the difference that once
Mhm.
you have your license, even if it's an intern license,
Mhm.
you're working as a therapist.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, so it's been amazing. Like I
Mhm.
really I can't believe I waited this long. Like,
Oh.
yeah, it's one of those things. And with every job I've had, I feel like I learned something. There was a
Mhm.
skill that I learned that has kind of carried me on to the next job. And then there I
Mhm.
picked up skill. And now I just kind of feel it's kind of like a snowball. Every
Sure.
place where you go, you kind of pick up something
Mhm.
um, that either it's a lesson of something like,
Mhm.
yep, I don't want to be doing that,
Yeah.
or like, yep, I learned how to do this and I love it,
Mhm.
you know.
Awesome.
So yeah, so I feel like all of these things have sort of led me to where I'm at, and I think
Mhm.
just, in a way, having life experience has helped me be, I think, a
Mhm.
better therapist.
Mhm.
That, I mean, everybody has their strengths, but I
Mhm.
choose to focus on the fact that I'm
Mhm.
older, and that helps me, just do my job
Sure.
better.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. Did that answer your question? I
Yeah,
kind
no,
of summed it up.
definitely. Like how long it's been and kind of like what life is now. But I mean, you honestly have been smiling nearly the entire time we're talking about your new job. So
Yeah,
I definitely can see that it's a place that makes you happy and like you're doing what you're supposed to do. Um,
yeah.
however many years later, but glad we got here.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And I mean, it's challenging for
Mhm.
sure. I'm still learning a lot.
Mhm.
Um, but I think at the end of the day, like today, for example, was crazy. I
Mhm.
don't usually have like this many clients kind of back to back to back to
Mhm.
back.
Mhm.
But because of school and all these changes, it just happened to be that way today.
Sure.
But so there's definitely challenges to that.
Mhm.
Um, but I never like leave the day thinking like, oh, that was awful,
Yeah.
never. Like I'm just really happy about what
Yeah.
I'm doing, and even just the way, kind of my life has
Mhm.
aligned to this job. Like I feel like I'm in a good mental space to
Mhm.
be a therapist now. So
Mhm.
I don't know that I would have been, having, I don't know, younger kids. I'm not a good mom. Like I've never won that
Oh,
award.
Esme.
So I felt like when they were little, I felt like I needed to focus a lot of my energy into
Sure.
just keeping them alive.
Mhm.
But
I'm sure
um
they're thriving young individuals, very independent,
right.
like they're good.
Yes. Well, they're definitely independent. Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess that's a perk of, my poor parenting. But
Oh gosh, I'm sure they're great.
but yeah, no, so I think like, there's times in your life where you have to kind of focus your energy on
Mhm.
different things in your life. And I feel like
Mhm.
right now, like I'm like, oh, I can focus on learning and how to be a good therapist. And I can
Mhm.
focus on being a good listener and,
Mhm.
just really be able to focus on my clients. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it's been really good. And the majority of my clients right now are children, which is
Okay.
great. Yeah.
Mm.
So it's, yeah, kind
So
of.
that's great. I'm so happy that you're able to find this, later
Mm,
than I'm sure you wanted, but I'm
mhm.
glad that you're able to find it. So,
Yeah.
um, so to kind of wrap up, show motto is don't be a little bitch.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
people
I
laugh, but
love
I
it.
still laugh because I'm like, I don't know how people take that. But it's basically like, what is your like last like kernel of advice? Like if someone was thinking of they wanted a job change or they're not really happy in their job, what would you tell them? What would be the advice that you would give them?
I think my advice for somebody who's already thinking about switching is, focus on getting the most that you can out of where you're at. Because
Mm-hmm.
I know not everybody has the luxury to just leave a job from one day
Sure.
to the next.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have to stay in that job for a little bit longer as you kind of go to school or get a certification or
Mm-hmm.
find the other job,
Sure.
um, really focus on what can you get out of that job that you're in right now that's
Mm-hmm.
going to help you along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think no matter how bad we think a job is,
Mm-hmm.
there's always a skill to be learned, or there's
Sure.
always somebody there that can teach us something,
Mm-hmm.
about who we want to be in the future or who we don't want to be in the future.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So focusing on that while you're in that space, and then just really not letting the fear stop you.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in like this test that took me 14 years to take,
Yeah.
um just it was that fear that just really stopped me from doing
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
And so just not letting that fear stop you from moving on to something that you like. Somebody gave me really good advice when I was thinking about leaving. She
Mhm.
said, take out a piece of paper and make your business card of your dream job.
Mhm.
What does
Mhm.
that look like? Like, what do
Mhm.
you want to put on there?
Mhm.
And she also made me draw my office, and she made
Okay.
me like really visualize, like, what do I see myself? And she was like, make a
Mhm.
schedule, like, just picture it. Like, what's
Mhm.
your job? Make a schedule and
Mhm.
visualize it. So yeah, so I feel like that's part of it too. Just like, let's visualize it. Let's put it
Yeah.
on paper,
Yeah. That's got it. It's like the manifestation.
Yes,
Yeah, because I
yes,
a couple episodes ago talked about that because I was
yes,
talking about
yes.
I read a
The
book.
boyfriend.
Yeah. Well, it's a really
That's
great
funny.
book and it's called Manifest Now and it just talks about like you just need to visualize yourself where you want to be. And so that's the way that I take it. But
Yes,
I'm sure it
yes,
works in all walks of life.
it does. Yes, yeah, yeah. I think especially in a job where,
For sure.
eventually you have some choices you can make.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on and sharing.
Thank you. So good to see you.
Yes, it was good even though virtually, like virtual hugs.
Yes, you make me feel young to be like on in a podcast.
Oh, you're so
Yay.
cute.
I love it that you're doing this. You're
Yeah,
great at it.
thanks. And it's funny because like you're older than me, but I never
Right.
like I felt like we always just got along so
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like I don't even like the thought doesn't cross my mind like, oh, she's got like high school kids and she
Right.
was working at the university I was attending like at the time. Like I don't even like put that in the same thought process.
That's awesome. Yes, I was already working there when you were there.
Yeah.
So for a few years.
Yeah. That's
That's
so funny.
awesome. Awesome. Well,
All
thanks so
right.
much for having
Of
me. I
course. Thanks
love
for
it.
coming on. So yeah, so thanks for listening today, you guys. You can find this episode on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes Podcast, or Stitcher. Follow on Instagram at blah blah marry me, or you can follow along with my new blog, which is tamaraluhu.com. So TAMARALUHOU.com, and there's a section for Blah Blah Marry Me podcast that lives there. So, anyway, thanks again, Esme, so much for coming on today.
Thank
Um,
you, Tamara.
and we'll see you guys next time. Okay, we're done.
Okay. I was like, okay, what do I do?
Yeah, no, that's it. That's about it. So, how'd you feel?